Since September 2021, Chow Hang Tung, Vice-Chairperson of the Hong Kong Alliance in support of patriotic democratic movements of China, has been held at Tai Lam Centre for women either serving a prison sentence or in custody on remand. Prolonged pre-trial detention is a new normal under the national security law. This barrister, still in prison, has received at least 5 international human rights awards during her period in custody.
"影響幾深嘅一句説話，應該係劉曉波講過嘅。搞民主運動嘅人坐監就同農夫要種地，工人你去工廠上買一樣嘅嘢嚟嘅啫，即係呢個係 part of the job 咯咁樣。停返六四！停返六四！停止濫捕！
On 4th of June 2021, Chow Hang Tung was arrested. She was subsequently brought to court on 4 separate charges: for taking part in and inciting others to take part in an unauthorized assembly in 2020, and inciting others to take part in an unauthorized assembly in 2021, for the Alliance's alleged refusal to provide information under the national security law, and for the alleged involvement of the Alliance in incitement to subvert state power. 4 cases in total.
Now in jail, it seems to me that the only thing I can do is to turn into a columnist.
This is an interpretation of Chow Hang Tung's voice. On 12th of July 2021, she publicly released her first letter from prison.
It appears that my career as a barrister must take a temporary pause. Just as I said before leaving, as long as there is a breath left in me, I will fight to the end. In the coming years, even if I can't be with you physically, I can still be rebellious with words. This is a kind of literary inquisition. In such an era, words might be the kind of weapon that is nothing less powerful than demonstration.
She was granted bail and released in August 2021, but was then rearrested in September and has been in custody ever since. Even in prison, she has never stopped writing.
The challenge of writing lengthy articles in a prison cell is the limited space, a small room with only a plastic table and no chair. Surprisingly, I discovered the floor in front of the door is the optimal writing spot. It's the closest point to the outside, where the fan is located, making it the coolest spot in the cell. The floor serves as a makeshift desk, allowing me to spread out the judgments, read and write without worrying about pages being blown off the bed. And I can lean against the pillar of the bunk bed for a ready-made backrest.
She sits on the floor like this, writing her practical guide for prisoners.
What truly brings happiness? To me, it's the simplicity of life's little joys. Seeing a beautiful tree in the morning, reveling in the warm sunlight during airing out, or observing Man taking a nap in the afternoon. Yes, that cat. Even taking part in weight loss exercises with my cellmates in the evening. All these bring joy to me. Perhaps it's the gift of having a simple mind, or maybe happiness is a skill that can be cultivated over time. Meaning. This appears to be the magical word, the very root of both happiness and unhappiness. The cleaning lady might feel that scrubbing the toilet until it shines is a success. Sisyphus might find meaning and joy in finding the perfect path up the mountain each day. Setting goals in daily life and tasks, and finding a sense of achievement, seems to be one of the shortcuts to discovering meaning. I always remind myself that in a place where tears are already abundant, I must choose laughter and treat those around me with kindness. To smile freely is a choice within this confined freedom, within a system that compels wrongdoing. My only concern is that laughter might bring about laugh lines.
After a year in prison, Chow Hang Tung continued to be held in custody on charges under the national security law, specifically for the accusations of incitement to subvert state power related to her involvement with the alliance. While in prison, she persistently voiced her opinions through letters. However, these dynamics have slowly started to change. Friends have noted that Chow Hang Tung lost significant weight during her time in prison, and the physical toll was evident in calluses on her hands from extensive writing. Without access to a computer and unable to go online, she had to handwrite court statements and letters. However, over the past year, many of the letters have gone missing frequently or been intercepted. In October 2023, her fiancé on the mainland let it be known that he hadn't received any letters from Chow for several months. The most recent photos of Chow Hang Tung were taken in June 2023, when she attended a hearing at the Court of Final Appeal. As she got out of the prison vehicle and entered the court, correctional officers used briefcases to hide her, but she managed to peek through the gap, revealing a smile. A fleeting moment that was captured by the news photographers. After that, the officers pulled up a huge black cloth, leaving no gaps anymore. Chow Hang Tung's face, words and updates all have become more and more elusive to the public eye. Over more than 6 months, she was placed in solitary confinement every month as a form of punishment. Since June 2023, she has consistently been accused of violating prison rules. According to records kept by her friends and family, she faced penalties on 9 occasions in the second half of 2023. These included an incident where Chow Hang Tung was found sharing peanuts with a fellow inmate, violating prison regulations that prohibit the sharing of food or possessions. She was punished with 3 days of solitary confinement. On another occasion, she shared a piece of ginger with someone, resulting in a 7-day penalty. There was also an instance where she shared shampoo, resulting in another 3-day punishment. In mid-December, after receiving the Franco-German Prize for Human Rights and the Rule of Law, she was accused of hoarding too many letters, violating prison regulations. She then faced a severe penalty of 18 days. According to the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the Treatment of Prisoners, disciplinary sanctions should never develop into torture or inhuman treatment. Prolonged solitary confinement for more than 15 consecutive days is specifically prohibited. According to rough estimates by Chow's friends and family, she was kept in solitary confinement in the so-called water and rice cell for a total of 78 days in the second half of 2023. The Correctional Services Department's response to us was that they would not comment on individual cases. Her friends jokingly call her the Queen of the Water and Rice Cell. On one occasion, a friend asked her, "Why do you always break the rules by sharing things with others?" She explained that some fellow inmates don't have family members providing supplies, and the shampoo she shared was merely a leftover. She thought these were only pretexts used to accuse her. In October 2023, Chow's friends reported what she said.
When I'm taken to the solitary cell, the combination of the stifling heat and the uncertainty about events in the outside world is the most unbearable. Can you imagine? It's like cutting off my connection with all of you and with Hong Kong.
Chow told them how lucky she felt just to be moved to a different cell.
I've been relocated to another room. It's much better now with a fan outside. Finally, I can get a few more hours of sleep. But this isn't something that can be improved on an individual basis. There will be other people moving into the room without a fan. So improving the overall environment is the most important thing.
She wrote 2 English speeches in the prison.
There is a certain irony in a prisoner of law receiving a prize given by lawyers. Something must have gone very wrong when one who pledged to serve the law receives recognition instead for allegedly breaking the law.
In November 2023, along with Chinese human rights activists Zhu Zhiyong and Ding Jiaxi, she received the Human Rights Award from the Council of Bars and Law Societies of Europe, commending their courage, determination and commitments to defend human rights and the rule of law in China. Chow Hang Tung is the first Hong Kong barrister to receive this award. Setting aside her usual humorous style of writing, she focused on a serious topic entitled On Rules-Based Order.
Rules are rules, say the officials, say the judges, say the prison warden. And the elephant in the room snorts. Who made the rules anyway? When the Constitution mandates a party's absolute leadership, does allegiance to the law require honouring one-party rule? When a law is secretly made and suddenly sprung on the populace, do you accept or reject its authority?
Chow Hang Tung says that laws propped up by unjust power could bring about the greatest nightmares, even becoming tools to suppress dissent. In her speech, she discussed how the meaning of the term national security has taken on an ever more expansive and partisan meaning. It is to the point that a common citizen speaking her mind, if her views might contradict that of the party, can be considered a national security threat, justifying indefinite pre-trial detention. Criticism or even just sarcasm are increasingly equated with the stroking of hatred. The scope of what counts as peaceful protests under the Basic Law has been steadily compressed, which led to thousands of protesters who have not themselves committed any act of violence, but were merely present at or near to a scene where violence erupted, being sentenced to lengthy jail terms. Terms such as national security, freedom of speech, and peaceful assembly seem to have undergone new interpretations. It appears as though universal values are being replaced with different ideologies.
The party's narrative on the term is swallowed whole in the name of deference and entrenched through successive case law. Such shift in meaning and interpretation does not occur overnight, and thus is all the harder to detect and resist. Each step built on the last, with plausible-sounding legal justification, until step by innocuous step, we end up in a completely unrecognisable place, where prisoners of conscience populate our prisons. Protestations that our judiciary is still independent is really quite beside the point. The party simply has little need of old-style, explicit direction of individual cases, when political control already permeated every pore of society. When the independent court is voluntarily jailing dissenters and destroying civil society, why interfere?
Chow Hang Tung pointed out in her speech that the Great Firewall, China's extensive internet censorship system, is a massive infrastructure to wall off free information, a daily violation of the rights to information, expression, and communication of billions. Because of the legal justifications, the system is rationalized and even foreign tech companies are participating.
Forced labour in Xinjiang does not exist. Allegation of torture is foreign propaganda. Nothing happened on Tiananmen Square on that fateful day 34 years ago, as shown by the fact that I must speak to you from prison, and the fact that most Chinese people would never know why Su Zhiyong and Ding Jiaxi are imprisoned, or even heard of their names. Yet tech companies, local and foreign alike, are untroubled by their participation in the world's largest attempt at thought control, since they can always say that they are merely complying with legal requirements. Law thus becomes an excuse to calm our conscience, numbing us to the part we play in evil.
Chow said that the international community is increasingly becoming part of China's massive system for reshaping reality.
It can propose the building of a community with a shared future for mankind, while destroying every sense of community among its people, producing a most atomized society. It urges respect for a people's choice of their own system of governance, while never giving that choice to its people. When other countries sign on to these seemingly benign initiatives of China, they should be aware that they are not entering into genuine mutual agreement of principles, but a propaganda drive to reshape reality. The power of these initiatives has less in their content, but more in their number of adherents. The more people echo these formulations, the more prestige to the proposer, the more credible is their version of reality. The form of these words become all important, while the words themselves lose meaning. It is in fact Havel's story of the greengrocer repeated on a global scale.
Václav Havel was the initiator of the 1989 Velvet Revolution and then the first president of the Czech Republic. In his book, The Power of the Powerless, there is a symbolic example. In an authoritarian society, greengrocers are required to display official slogans on shop windows to demonstrate loyalty to the system. The greengrocers decide not to comply. They choose not to live in a false manner, refusing to empower the system any longer.
Since the voice of conscience can only come from within and cannot be delegated nor centralized, conscience has power only when individuals have power. Thus, law as values is possible only when individuals have a share in state power, when each touched by the law can judge it and mould it in turn, in accordance with his own conscientious understanding of the law's values. The building of democratic institutions that alone can safeguard the law's dignity is also a lawyer's duty, which is why all three of us receiving this prize today are jailed for working for democracy in China, even when knowing that the laws we served would likely condemn us. For sometimes, confronting the law as it is the only way to respect the law as it should be, and the highest service a lawyer can offer her fellow men.
On 10th of December 2023, International Human Rights Day, the governments of France and Germany awarded the Franco-German Prize for Human Rights and the Rule of Law to 12 individuals, including Chow Hang Tung. Chow published her acceptance speech on 15th of December, titled Blank Ballot and White Paper, Recovering the Essence of Our Trampled Rights.
When the world celebrates International Human Rights Day, the Hong Kong government mocks it by holding a fake election. Not only is there no meaningful choice on the ballot, people are not even allowed to register their displeasure by calling on each other to cast blank votes. Yes, inciting another to vote for no one is a statutory crime in Hong Kong. Here, voting is meant to show only approval, not choice, and a blank ballot, empty of content and hence pregnant with possibilities, is a most serious threat to such show of unanimity, just as blank pieces of paper can be a most serious threat to national security in China. For what are human rights but a guarantee that each can have his own piece of blank paper, free to fill it in with whatever one pleases? Instead, we find ourselves confined to the ever-narrowing realm of the approved and permitted, allowed to play only the roles designated by those in power. For what is freedom of speech but the right to form our own words on that blank page of ours? Instead, we find ourselves being forced to repeat gibberish party speak in order to pass exams, to land a job, or even just to avoid jail. For what is the right to vote but the right to make our own choice? Instead, we find our choice made for us in the back room, and voting reduced to a ritual confirmation of the party's will.
She argues that the recognition that each has the right to his own blank page is also a call to drop all preconception and prejudice about each other, a call to hold on to the sense of mutual respect and equality in human relationships. Without that blank page of possibility, each now holds a just piece of the jigsaw designed from on high, and can only relate to specified others in accordance with the shape and pattern allocated to him. The jigsaw might look grand, but it is also a sterile object devoid of vitality.
A state's denial of the people's right is its own invisibility cloak. But in every white paper, in every blank vote, in every missing credit, people have tried to subvert even invisibility into a protest, into the purest assertion of human rights and dignity.
During her detention, Chow Hang Tung received at least 5 international human rights awards. Each time, she wrote the speeches from prison. Each time, she was punished by being confined in the water and rice cell. Facing 4 walls alone, with all inmate privileges revoked. While her body is restrained, her voice may be silenced, but her thoughts remain free. Chow Hang Tung persists in writing and thinking within her prison cell, a freedom that cannot be taken away from her.